What makes the truly great esports? Maybe the thrilling tournaments and events spanning many countries, or the game that keeps growing together with the sport, always fresh and always a challenge. Maybe it's the teams consisting of people truly loving the game, who are giving everything they have for victory. Let's find out. Hi, Stanis here. Today is a very big day for all Guns of Boom fans. It's the kick-off event of the second esports season. Two strongest Guns of Boom teams in the world will clash on one of the biggest esports stadiums in the world, the Spartak Arena in Katowice, Poland. It's the heart of the FPS esports scene with many thousands of players attending the show. Right now in the second Guns of Boom esports season, we have 200 teams participating in the tournaments, with more than 600 different players spanning 4 regions and 3 leagues. With today's event being the grand kickoff to really start the season with a bang. The show will start very soon, but now, while we wait, let's look back on the road we had walked to get here. Let's start with the history of where it all came from. From very early in the game, there have been some very enthusiastic clans. The players banded together to fight in battles, exchange experience, and just fool around. Even way before the first esports season started, the clans have been competing between themselves, trying to figure out who's the strongest. They would argue about who is the best player, which one is the best sniper, who had the best teamwork, and so on. I mean, it was pretty competitive already. Those guys were really fired up, and they would be asking for official tournaments day in and day out. First came the Pro Play mode. It was a specially designed competitive mode that allowed players to fight on equal footing, without worrying about the level difference. All HP and armor was equal in Pro Play, and the power of guns and consumables would scale down back to level 22. This also allowed the players to fight with their vast arsenal, as mid-level weapons could now be equal to the top-level guns. Then came the first Guns of Boom esports season, with a combined prize pool of $200,000, which was very motivating. It consisted of 2 large offline events and the Go4 Cups. The Go4 Cups were weekly single-elimination online tournaments where anyone could register to play for the chance to go to the big offline events and for the money prize. The finals of each cup were broadcasted by ESL, so we could see some incredible pro plays by the top teams for the first time on tape or on YouTube. Well, mostly on YouTube. The first of the offline events was actually also in Katowice, Poland, just like today. It was a double elimination tournament called the European Invitational, with many strong teams coming in from Europe ready to take the first place. It was won by Lazarus in the double grand final with a bracket reset against Noble. It means Noble lost to Lazarus, then went through the whole losers bracket, beating the other teams and won the first grand finals back against Lazarus, only to lose the second one. It was a real nail-biter, and if you haven't seen it, I strongly suggest you check it out on our channel. It was a magnificent show with the players setting foot on an actual esports stage for the first time in their lives, meeting their teammates in real life and finding new ways to communicate, fighting next to each other. I mean, the way Lord Manos shouted became quite legendary. Then there was another double elimination tournament, the Season 1 final in Los Angeles with a live audience and a lot of ambitions flying around. It was the World Finals. It was also won by Lazarus in the double grand finals. Can you guess who they were playing? Correct, it was Noble again, but this time it was Lazarus who lost to Noble during their first encounter and had to go through the whole losers bracket, reset it, play 2 grand finals, and only then finally win. You can see there's a certain pattern here. Now, these 2 teams, the eternal rivals, are about to go for it for this 3rd time. And this time there's something much bigger up for grabs than just the prize pool. Let me explain. There were only 2 leagues in the first season, the Go4 Cups and 2 offline studio events, the EU Invitational in Katowice and the Season 1 final in Los Angeles. This season is going to be different. Apart from weekly online cups, which are now called the Challenger Series, and the studio events, we are introducing the Gods of Boom, gigantic arena events, like the one you're about to see. And the winners of today's battle will get a direct invite to the next Gods of Boom event. And the losers? Well, they'll have to fight their way through the Challenger Series and the Pro Series for a shot at that. Lazarus is of course the favorite this time around, but Noble has enlisted a young prodigy from an American team into their midst. So it's really hard to say who will come out victorious this time. Now, let's talk about the game itself and how it has been growing together with the esports scene. When the first season started, you can only use your regular grenades and health kits in the pro play mode. The gameplay was very straightforward, and the skill was more about precision and less about complex tactics. Now, in the second season, we have unlocked many other types of offensive and defensive consumables, such as grenade launchers, steam guns, freeze grenades, flashbangs, and so on. We've made all of the guns available and free during the tournaments. Consumables are also free, but limited to a certain number depending on what type of consumable you use in one battle. The respawn timer is now dynamic. It incrementally increases if you keep dying many times in a row, giving even more incentive to thinking out plays and tactics. So, don't go down without a fight. We have also prepared a special in-game event just for today's battle. You can go inside the game, fight in the pro play mode with other players, complete challenges and vote for the team you think will win today. And if you guess right, there's a special prize in it for you. And there's some good fun. Now, in the first season we have started with only 2 regions, Europe and America. But in the second season, we have included Latin America and Southeast Asia, including India. Our Indian community is extremely big and vibrant, with many loyal fans of the game who have been asking for tournaments of their own for a long time. We're very happy to see so many Indian teams joining the tournaments, and we wish them luck on the world stage. Many of the top teams have been signed up by professional esports organizations, and many rosters have changed during this time. But this is a natural occurrence, as the players are looking for their identity and starting to form strong bonds that can carry them through the hardships of serious professional play. And because we understand how important that identity is, in Poland we will show the team's branding inside the game for the first time. Noble and Lazarus will be the first ones to have exclusive rights on their team branding on their in-game models. That's right, t-shirts on the models themselves. Not gonna spoil anything, just check out the way they look in battle. So, it's about time we start. Let's hope for the best showdown we can possibly get. Will Noble finally overthrow Lazarus as the reigning champions? Or will Lazarus cement their leading position as they move towards an ever bigger world tournament in the second Gods of Boom event in Germany? Let's find out.
That's a very brief look at a very big venue, ladies and gentlemen. We are live to you from Katowice in Poland, one of the esports capitals of the world and one of the most famous venues and famous tournaments awaits us. I'm Matt Andrews, and welcome to the first ever Gods of Boom tournament for Guns of Boom, live to you from IEM Katowice, the Intel Extreme Masters, legendary tournament where people flock to from all over the world to watch the best in esports in the incredible Spodek Arena. And that venue, legendary that it is after so many world championships and incredible performances, that is where Gods of Boom is going to have its first stadium level event and kick off season 2. As I say, I'm Matt. Joining me here on the desk, some more guys thrilled to be in Katowice with us. We've seen them around the world on Guns of Boom and other tournaments as well, of course. But from season 1, we welcome back Lethal and Jackie, and Blue joins us as well. Blue, your first time on Guns of Boom, and we've got a chaotic and fun tournament ahead of us.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun, of course. We have the 2 best teams in the world going at it once again. And obviously, as we were just seeing before in the preview video, it's going to be another test to see which one's the greatest. So we'll have to see how that pans out.
Yeah, we do see these teams often. You guys know these teams very well. We'll get deeply into that with them. But Lethal, Jackie, season 2 is about to begin.
Yeah, it's going to be some very interesting stuff between these, not just these 2 teams, but all in other regions as well being involved. But these 2 are the pinnacle. They've been going at it event after every single final, and it's going to be such a fantastic day to see them again.
Yeah, it will be a pretty tasty affair, Matt. I mean, it's fair to say, you know, this is the best of the best when it comes to Guns of Boom. We've got players that are loud. They bring a lot of energy to it. We saw that with Lord Mano in the past. I'm excited to see it again. It's going to be a good day.
We're going to see it, and if there's anybody who can fill a venue the size of the Spodek, I think he's got a decent chance of that. To be honest, Lord Mano can make some noise. We're talking about Guns of Boom, this huge mobile first-person shooter. The first time a mobile FPS has been in a stadium-level event like this as well. 60 million players worldwide, and it is fast, and it is frantic, and I know lots of you are going to be joining us for the first time. We're going to be playing the first ever best of 7 in this invitational match at the Season 2 kickoff. 2 incredible teams to do it. We play across different game modes. We have TDM, we have Control Point, and we have King of the Hill as well. We'll be doing the video, we'll be bringing you the maps, we'll explain all of that in a little while once the teams have figured it all out. But yeah, it's fast and it's fun.
Yes, it's one of those very hectic games where there's so much involved in a lot of FPS, but this one in particular, you have to take in so much into consideration what these players have to do. There's so many different strategies, and even coming into Season 2 now, I've spoken to a couple of players from the teams, and they said so much has changed with their tactics, their communication, how they actually do things as players and as teams. We're going to see a lot of different things, and for the viewers at home to actually be able to witness that firsthand.
Yeah, we've seen it develop a lot more sort of over the, the growth of Guns of Boom from when it actually came into it with that first season. It was kind of on the cusp of actually having players define their roles a whole lot more. And we saw that now where it's got to a point where you do have dedicated IGLs. People are very set into what they're doing. The current team talk as well is a whole lot better from how it used to be. Communication's really on point now. It's developed a lot, Matt.
I mean, it's borrowing, I guess, a little bit from sort of other FPS as well. We know, call-outs are really important, strategies, being able to adjust on the fly, all of those things, we don't take for granted exactly, but we know familiarly well from other games. And yeah, that is naturally going to make its way into an esport, which is, still kind of finding its way, right? And this is really exciting time. It means meta changes as quickly as this game does.
It's on the up and up. It's getting into that position where it's sort of finding its own sweet spot, right? Obviously, Blue, you coming into it now, you're going to sort of get your first sort of a bit to dip your toes in. I think you'll have a blast of it. I think you'll enjoy it because it does provide for a lot of exciting action, obviously, from what you've shown before. You've seen how quick pace it can be.
Yeah, obviously, I checked out the Season 1 finals that we had back in Burbank a couple months ago. It definitely seems like a very, very fast-paced game where communication, I think, more than anything else, tends to be very important amongst the players. So that's going to be one of the key things to victory in this show match here.
And there are some FPSs which are fast. We know that. If you haven't seen this before, you haven't seen the fastest yet. This one is how the players can react to this and do the individual skill as well as everything you've got to do to strategize and so on. Yeah, this is a sight to behold. Season 1, though. Season 1 is done. You mentioned just now at the finals a couple of months ago in Burbank, and prior to that, there was the EU Invitational. And so we had the smaller regions then, like only a couple of regions. It's expanded to Season 2, and we'll tell you more about that shortly. But Season 1 went well, but there were names that kind of stuck out again and again and again. Teams that we are going to see.
Yeah, these two teams have just been going at it left, right, and centre. Every single event we've had, they've got to the final each and every time. If it's from the elimination bracket or the winners bracket, they've been there every single time. And also one thing to take into account is the fact that there's been some lineup changes as well. Yeah. So I'll be very interested to, just to see exactly how that will pan out going into this final.
Yeah, let's show you a little bit of a highlight of Season 1. And then, yes, these teams that we know so well. Well, we've got a good old grudge match, a good old revenge match, and that always makes for an exciting contest. But as you just said, Harry, there's a little bit of a change for the rosters. But here's Season 1. Oh, okay, so Season 1, EU, and we had Burbank as well, and these were the regions of NA and EU. We're talking about Lazarus and Noble, but back then we knew them in different names. And then we knew them as Black Bulls and Back to Back. And let's summarize basically Season 1. They meet. And they meet again, and they meet again, and what were Black Bulls, but now Lazarus, they always win at the end when it matters.
It seems to be the case because with this team, they've got so much stamina, and in terms of their communication, it's very, very strong. And with a player like Spleen on their team now, it's going to make the comms so much better. And I felt like during Season 1, it was the communication from both teams what kind of lacked a little bit. And some of the players did say to me, it's something they really need to work on because small talk, especially on a game like this, is very, very important. But now they've realised it. They've changed a lot of things, not just the strategies, but the little minor things here and there, just to push themselves just that little bit further because there's a lot more competition now coming into Season 2.
Yeah, more regions, more teams, more invites, and bigger tournaments to face up to. So Season 2, which is going to kick off right now, Season 2 looks like this. So for Season 2, we expand the regions, firstly, to NA and EU, but also Latin America and SEA. Australia and India are going to get involved with their massive Guns of Boom communities as well. Challenger Series is what everybody can take part in as well. We'll have weekly tournaments every Saturday, and people can enter, qualify, fight through a season of sort of 8 or 9 weeks, depending on which season we're in through the year, and then that will lead to the Pro Series finals, where we will have another LAN like we did in Katowice and Los Angeles last year. And teams from that get to go to the big stages, which is the Gods of Boom. And the first one of those is what we're doing here at the Season 2 kickoff. So that's an exciting tournament, isn't it, Jackie, for people to get involved in? People can play from home, make it to a pro final, get invited, go to that, and then maybe come to somewhere like the Spodek.
It's also great, Matt, because it lays out that sort of, the grassroots into the pro level now. And it gives you a clear-cut idea of how you can actually come into the scene. You can pick up your phone, no matter where you are. You can jump to a game of Guns of Boom, right? And you can start getting that experience and eventually find a team and work your way through. And especially with these Gods of Boom events now, this is where it starts to get a little bit more prestige to it. Because not only are you winning those LAN events with, a couple of teams there, 8 teams, now it's cut down to just the pure 2 that are the best of the best.
Yeah, here. And when we do Gods of Boom tournaments later on in the year, there's going to be a few more invite spots going to those. So, more chance for people to make those big stages and then these LANs. And we've seen from the guys who we're going to be seeing today, Lazarus and Noble, they were so excited to go to Season 1 LANs. They were like, we can't believe we're here. Our mobile game that we love so much, we're in Los Angeles. We saw interviews with them where they were just like, this is a dream. This is happening now. And yeah, we're back in Katowice, only this time we're in the venue that they wanted to be in last time. We had the LAN final in the studio. The Spodek is somewhere really special if you want to play a competitive match.
Yeah, very much the case. Obviously, we've seen it being used for primarily Counter-Strike and some of the other big games as well over the past few years, but now it's Guns of Boom's turn to give it a shot here in the Spodek, and it should be really interesting to see how it plays out. As, like you were saying, I know a lot of these players want to step into a big arena like this, and it's going to be a really exciting time if for anyone, those players, as they're going to get to live out their dreams, I imagine.
Question is it going to get to any of them? Because that is a big stage, and there are a lot of seats in front of you. The Spodek is massive. So, another thing that is very unusual for Guns of Boom, as well as being such a fast-paced and exciting FPS, is it has this AR spectator mode, and we're going to be bringing that to you. If you haven't used it in-game, you really should check this out. It's absolutely incredible what you can do with AR mode. You can literally, have the map. It seems like it's right in front of you on your desk or your table or your kitchen or your lap on a train or wherever it is you're trying to do this thing. I don't know where you play, Jackie, but work with me. And so you can find your way around in AR. We're going to show you this right now. So this is how we're going to be doing some of the observing. And to Nuclear Inverse and player 60561512, welcome to a Gods of Boom broadcast, because you didn't know, we've just decided to show your game. These are people playing Guns of Boom right now who are not part of this broadcast, but we need to show you how the AR client works. And welcome to the big stage. Who's doing well? Azura is doing quite well. So, we will be playing a best of 7 while we watch those guys briefly scrap it out. We'll be playing a best of 7. All the maps are from our 3 different modes. The teams are going to veto some out, and that'll determine the modes that we're going to play. And if you're not familiar with Guns of Boom, all the rounds are limited to 5 minutes maximum, but also there's a points that you have to hit, 500 in TDM, and control points in King of the Hill. It's a little bit more than that, but you can get a lot of points in a lot of different ways. Are we ready?
I'm more than ready. I think we've been waiting for this for such a long time. And just to see these 2 teams battle out straight away rather than going through groups, Swiss, or double elimination, it's kind of like a dream, really. We can't really help to, be so happy about it.
Yeah. We've talked them up a bit. We know them so well from Season 1. You used to know them as Black Bulls and Back-to-Back. Black Bulls are here, the champions of Season 1. We now call them Lazarus.
I'm Kevin Castellanos. I'm from Colombia, but I live in the US. My gamer tag is Divine King. The difference between my team and Novel is we are willing to work hard. We are humble. We know we're the winners. We won two champions. But even though we won, we have to keep humble and keep fighting for more. We don't give up until the last minute. We don't give up to the last moment. Noble as the opponent, I think they're a very good team. They are a good team. They have good strategies. They have Killing Machine. He's an amazing player, MVP. What can I say? They have some amazing players. On the other side, we Lazarus, we are the best, and we're gonna prove them again. To play at such a big stage, I think it's a dream. I remember on the first event, it was in Katowice, but it was on the ECO studio. And when I saw this stadium, I was like, are we gonna play there? I thought we were gonna play there, but we weren't. But I was like, man, one day I want to play there. And guess what? It is happening, and it's like a dream come true. The second season for us, we want to keep improving. It's a new meta, and we are adapting to it. For us, it has been very difficult in our line cups since we have 3 players from Europe and I play in the US, and so my lag ping is very bad, 150 ping. But even though it is bad, I do my best and I perform, even though with my circumstances.
Yeah, Divine King telling us, as I said, how excited they are to be back in Katowice after coming into ESL Studios for the EU Invitational, winning that, and now getting a chance to win on the stage that they kind of, were driving by and going, what's that spaceship doing in the middle of a Polish city? Spodek. The Spodek is really an incredible place. Yeah, that's where they're going to be, on the stage, same place as the Major, to play it out. And I think if there's a team who can make some noise, as I said, and handle the pressure, Jackie, what do you reckon about Lazarus' chances?
They're a loud team, and most of that does stem from Lord Mano, right? He was pretty much the first IGL in Guns of Boom, and he has a very heavy micromanaging style of controlling his squad. We saw that at the EU Invitational. It was the fact that he was the only team where he would call very commandingly, and they would follow that to the death. It wouldn't matter what else was going on. It would always be his calls you could hear echoing behind you as you're casting, and it was loud, right? But it was also the fact the team around him bought into it. They understood what they needed to do. Divine King, someone that, as he touched on, the unfortunate fact is they struggle online, but in those LAN environments where there isn't ping that's affecting him because of where he plays from, and he can just sit there and hear those calls clearly. There's no disconnect. He's right in front of him. He sat next to him. It's so easy for that entire team to get pumped up and follow through. You've then got Excellence, who is just probably, in terms of Guns of Boom, I mean, he's a UK boy. He's basically the Smooyer of Guns of Boom. That's kind of how it works. He likes to show up. He's a bit of a show voter. He's a showman, Matt.
Right, good. I don't mind a showman being in. But then let's talk about the Spleen, because the Spleen is standing in for Romeo. So I mentioned there's a couple of roster changes. Here's the one for Lazarus. It's not their usual 4. It's not the 4 who've won everything we've done. The Spleen is joining him, and he's a great player. He's going to get shouted at by Lord Mano, and he's going to have to do what he's told.
He will, but I imagine at that point, right, coming into it, what we saw with Guns of Boom, which is a little bit different from most other esports, is when they had the Go 4 Cups, they were actually playing with a bit of a bigger roster, and they'd rotate players in after the point where they knew they had already qualified for the various tournaments that were coming up, right? And that gave them time to actually gain experience, just in case there was ever an issue with, say, getting a visa or something along those lines. They could have that 6th player at least be somewhat comfortable in the roster if they needed to sub him in. And I imagine at this point, they've probably had somewhat of the same practice going through with that. It was an ideology that Lord Mano seemed to, bring quite strong to. So I got to feel like there's at least been a bit of prep going through.
Oh yeah, sure. He would be the sort of guy who would not just expect this to work without some work behind it. If you're wondering who the Spleen is, he used to play for Israel Esports. They're now Ember Esports Club. That's new to Guns of Boom, but he's subbing in here because Romeo couldn't be here. Let me ask you this though, Blue. Let me ask you from your experience. If you've got a team who are functioning best because somebody is telling them what to do. Doesn't that sort of beg the question, are the players making their own decisions correctly?
I wouldn't say so. It's kind of gets down to a point where the IGL, which in this case, we talked about him a little bit there, is going to be Lord Mano. He has to rely on his teammates to kind of make the right decisions there. So there's sort of a trust between the IGL and the other 3 players to make sure they're doing the right thing. Obviously, if he notices that his 3 other players are going to be making constant mistakes and whatnot, that's when he's going to come in and make those more drastic adjustments and tell players, stop over-pushing, stop over-committing to fights, stay with us a little bit more. But I think there's going to be a general trust among the other 3 to do what needs to be done to get the win.
Their opponents are a team who've played Lazarus loads of times. When Lazarus were Black Bulls, these guys were back-to-back, but now they're Noble.
My name is Johan Kruk, also known as Nokia, with the number 1. You can call me Knock Knock if you want. I come from Sweden and I'm 20 years old. So the challenge is serious, yeah. We have won a couple of them and we're going stronger than ever into Guns of Boom. This Guns of Boom event in Katowice, it's all in or nothing for this team. And with me putting this into this team, I think we're gonna make it and we're gonna aim high because we're not gonna be the losers this time. Coming into Guns of Boom event here, for me, the biggest and best major esport event in the world you can imagine. I'm so proud again to actually represent Guns of Boom and overall the mobile esport and show what a mobile esport can go for, because Guns of Boom is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So the competition in overall in the Guns of Boom, specifically in Europe, we have a lot of teams, many players who's like, you know, so much dedicated to the game, giving so much time for it, and we're getting so much other teams to it. Actually, I'm very glad, you know, that we have more different teams, other teams coming into the scene, putting up themselves and doing some good competition, because that's what we need. And that's what we like, because good competition is all about that. And also new teams who's like, you know, trying to compete with the best teams, because it's all about believing yourself. So, you know, for all the upcoming teams and players who maybe like, you know, haven't been in the scene as long as we have since day one, just believe in yourself, have the dedication and trust in yourself, and play a lot with your team and teammates, and you're gonna make it to the top.
So that is Noble, formerly known as Back to Back and regularly known as the runners-up to Lazarus. But they could really actually get it done this time, and it would mean so much if they do.
That's right. Now, the players on this roster is really, really scary. KM is a great example. He is one of the players where I've never seen someone be an IGL, but have one of the best KDs on the circuit. One of the best players in the world, in my opinion. Got MVP at the end of Season 1. And then Nokia. Now, he's the new person in the lineup, and he recently came from Amplified. He was one of the star players on that team. They brought Nokia on. But one of the things I remember KM telling me was the fact that now, with Nokia on board, the team is a lot more aggressive. The pace is a lot faster, and that's literally what they needed, because there were some places in the game in the Season 1 finals where it just let them down just that little bit. But now with Nokia on the team, it should make a huge difference. And with Gonza and Migs as well, they're the sort of players where they'll exploit any kind of weaknesses they can find. Very aggressive team, and, you know, this could potentially be the first time they'll get a win over Lazarus.
So Lazarus are going to be playing with a stand-in, and Noble are playing with a roster that they've built to be more aggressive than it was before. So if they don't get it done this time, it's just going to nag away at them that maybe they're never going to beat them. Let's quickly remind you what's happened in Season 1. They both met, Lazarus and Noble, or Black Bulls and Batsback. They both met in the opening round of a double elimination tournament. One of them won that, the other one dropped down, and it was the other way round, wasn't it, when we did the other LAN? So they both had experience of going through the winner's bracket, and the other team fighting all the way through the loser's bracket. And then they meet again at the final, Jackie. And what always happens?
They always get beat.
Yeah.
Which is kind of unfortunate, right? Because you put all that drive in, you put all the effort in, you always get to the grand final when it's supposed to be your moment, and it unfortunately never happened.
Yeah.
And it's quite unfortunate because, as Harry touched on, is the fact that you have Killing Machine. KM, who is kind of the biggest deal in Guns of Boom when it comes down to this player that is just absolutely unreal. He's confident, he'll do anything, he'll just go in headstrong. But not only that, he's also micromanaging the team. He's the one providing the insight and trying to get them together, right? He's really the person that brings the whole squad together. But this is sort of the biggest change, Matt. This is where this team actually looks like now there is potential, because it is a lot more aggressive. They're actually playing for their strengths, whereas in the past, it's almost as if they were playing not to lose. Now, they're playing to win.
And that's really different. And we know Back to Back have been maybe the little more relaxed of the two, kind of having fun, taking it seriously, but having fun, whereas Lord Mano and now Lazarus are just getting the job done. It's time to bring them out onto the Spodek Arena at the legendary IAM Katowice. This roster of Lazarus, with this record of always beating Noble, but this new team of Noble who are coming here to finally put one by them. And if they do it into the biggest tournament we've ever had, we'll go to the Spodek Arena and we'll welcome Lazarus and Noble for the Season 2 kickoff. Ladies and gentlemen of the legendary Spodek Arena, here at IEM Katowice, we welcome you to the first ever Gods of Boom! After season's one incredible action around the world, the two best teams, the reigning world champions and the team who have fallen to them twice at LANs before, they are back. They're here for the Season 2 kickoff match to launch this whole new competitive season for Guns of Boom. This top-level tournament, Gods of Boom, in stadiums around the world is going to start now. Two amazing teams, loads of history between them. One team always the champions, no matter how it works out in a double elimination bracket. One team and the other, they always meet. They always meet in the final. Previously, it's only gone one way, but maybe it will change here. For the Season 2 kickoff, please welcome Lazarus and Noble!
Wow, the two squads that have looked absolutely ridiculous every time we've seen them play. It's been nothing but show-stopping performances, and I think both of you boys will agree, I think we're in for a treat, right?
Absolutely, and it's going to be very different, I think.
As well, Blue, and he's going to be dealing some damage, I think it's fair to say.
We know it's going to be KM at some form
Yeah.
of the match there, so we'll just keep our eyes on that one. It's very much, I think, going to be the story, especially, you know, with such a new format these guys are going to be playing under. We're really going to want to pay attention to KM, and on the other side of things, Divine King, who seemed to be the leader when it came to statistics and just overall impact being made in the matches back at the Season 1 final. So I'm really going to be focused on seeing how those two do, as those oftentimes are the two players that would carry their teams to victory.
I think the two players I want to see just in particular, we talk a lot about KM, Divine King and all these players, but Spleen and Nokia, these are the guys who are replacing the former teammates now. We know Spleen is a stand-in, very loud guy, but the thing is, on the other side of Nokia, he's very aggressive, a very passionate player here, and he's one of those players who will really change not just the play style, but the pace of the game overall.
Oh yeah, it is going to be ridiculous. Excellence is probably the one for me, just off the back of, you know, it's the UK hype, it's the man that is actually pretty precise. He's one of these players that plays with an awful lot of confidence.
And it's exciting to see what they can do now, because now it matters. It always mattered before you walk onto that stage. Now, if you had any doubts or, you know, had that nervous kind of anticipation backstage, thinking, oh, we're going to walk on and we're going to play and we're going to beat them this time. Ooh, look at the Spodek. You walk through that stage at the back where you know world champions of other games have done. And yeah, we're calling them the Season 1 world champions, but it's never been on a stage under pressure like this. We've had a great turnout at the LANs we've done before. Fantastic when anybody joins us for the Season 1 finals. When we do the Pro Series of Season 2, when we invite the best teams from the weekly Challenger Series to come and play for real, that's going to be quite a surprise to teams. That may well be, you know, some people who've just been playing from home and are good at this, get a chance to play in front of a studio, in front of an audience. We've seen, all of us have worked on many different titles in esports. You've seen the best in the world crumble when an audience is looking at them and is in front of them. Here in the Spodek, there's a lot of them.
That is true, Matt. But you got to bear in mind, Guns of Boom's a mobile game. They've probably played on the train. I reckon they've played in a couple of people before. I reckon they'll have some
I've
kind
done
of
it a few
experience.
times, yeah.
Exactly, right?
Do you think Lord Mano gets loud on his bus?
Oh, I know he does.
I hope he does. I really hope he does that. As people around him go, what?
Did you say pushing?
You did what there?
Capture the point? Sorry?
He has to recenter himself when he realizes
Yeah.
Yeah.
public transport. He's like, oh, sorry, guys.
Okay, so Veto. Now we're doing a best of 7. And for Season 2, we now have an 11 map pool. It used to be 9 maps. We have 2 new ones. They're both TDM maps. Remember, what is going to happen here, if you're less familiar with Guns of Boom, is we have 3 modes. That's Team Deathmatch, Control Points, and King of the Hill. The teams choose the maps they want to play on, and that determines the mode. So they don't have to say, right, we're going to play King of the Hill and we're going to play Control Points. They choose the maps, and that's the modes we get. Now, obviously, in a best of 7, we're going to get everything. We are going like this. Noble have banned out Saloon, and Lazarus banned out Subway. So that's 2 King of the Hill maps gone. Are we surprised to lose those straight away?
I'm not surprised at all, because we know Lazarus, they are so good at Saloon. They dominate even the top tier teams here, and it doesn't take me by surprise at all. Some of the strategies they use, especially with the start strats as well, they've got that so well down to a T, then it makes, well, Noble think, well, there's not really much point to actually playing against them, which is fair enough. It's their best map, kind of makes a bit of sense. And with Subway being banned, I can definitely understand that, just due to the fact that KM, when they get the hill control, he stands in some really dodgy, unorthodox angles. And when you see some of that stuff, it's unbelievable what he can do.
Subway's ridiculous as well in just terms of the pure aggression map. It's one of those maps where there really is none other like it in the game because it's literally just a straight corridor. It's absolute hell. And Killing Machine thrives in the chaos. So, you know, you kind of want to try and keep away from that, right?
So we're keeping away from Subway, we're keeping away from Saloon. We're going to kick this off on Atrium. That's Noble's pick. Atrium will be the first map of this best of 7. Military Warehouse is where the second will be. That was Lazarus' pick. Then Lazarus picked Farming Complex. And the fourth, we know we'll get at least 4 in this best of 7. Noble will take us to Europe Square. But Atrium first, then Military Warehouse, Farming Complex, and Europe Square. So 3 control point maps and a TDM as well. But Atrium's the first one.
Atrium's an interesting one. This is actually going to be one of those maps where you can get a very strong lead. It does really build off the momentum. And unfortunately for these two teams, they're pretty evenly matched when it comes down to the sort of maps they play. At the beginning, when we saw back at the EU Invitational, it was the fact that Killing Machine and the boys, it was always very heavy on the TDM. They liked having the aims fight, right? Because he could just single-handedly carry. That was kind of the main point, is because he had so much firepower. They then tried to develop more with obviously the strategy behind it, playing more control point maps, playing more King of the Hill, and they're now in that position where they're both pretty comfortable. And Atrium is pretty balanced for the most part. It's pretty hard to actually fall into an awkward trap, but if you get that early confidence and you're able to find the first 2 points really towards, you know, the B flag, it all goes downhill from there.
Yeah, because it's one of those game types where it's probably the most balanced. We don't really see too many teams stand out in terms of the point difference from when they actually played each other. I know players like Spleen is very good on this map, and I think control point maps just for Lazarus is just good overall.
Yeah.
But with Noble's pick for the Military Warehouse, which is after this, that is one of their best game types. They've beaten some teams by like 200 points, something ridiculous like that. But the last time they actually played Lazarus it was very, very close. They had this huge lead, but then just barely dropped it at the end. So that'll be another interesting one to see later on.
Yeah, so Lazarus will take us there, but Noble chose to start things off on Atrium. So control point, if you're not familiar with Guns of Boom, Jackie, just take us through this. Three points that you need to hold if you can.
Yes, that's the core concept right there, right? It's pretty easy to understand. It's one of those where you've probably seen a lot in tons of other games, and that is basically your bread and butter. You need to be able to defend those points. However, obviously between both of these sides, it's the fact that it isn't going to be as easy said as done. There's a lot of quick rotations. We see some of the weapons that come into play as well that can give you a slight movement speed buff, and that's where the more in particular nuances that we find in the pro scene start to come into play. You'll see players that will go in with a porcupine. They'll be able to cap that first point, Matt. They'll rotate straight away from the center point off that to, you know, towards the A point there. Whip out the scout rifle so you get the extra movement speed boost to be able to try and cap that. It's a big game of cat and mouse, and it always has some interesting moments.
And 3 points between 4 players. That's tight.
Yeah, one thing I was going to point out as well, with some maps, you very rarely see a trip cap, and when you do, that's when you really realize how much of a dominant force that team is. Normally it's 1 or 2 most of the time, very rarely see 3 like I just mentioned before, but if you see a 3, especially on a map like this, that's when you know something's going a little bit wrong.
Yeah.
I think that's the reason why we're seeing so many teams go towards CP maps instead of King of the Hill, though, because King of the Hill very much, I feel like there's ways for teams to get definitive control of that 1 point, and then they can just hold on to that for the entire game. Teams, I think, would struggle with trying to successfully breach in, and obviously, if they're not going to be able to change up strategies in the middle of the game, they just find themselves against a wall they can't get past. Obviously, with control point, there being 3 points instead of just 1, you have a lot more room. I think you had already mentioned it. There's a lot more room for things like rotations, and since there's only 4 players, a lot more mistakes that a defending team, when they do the majority control, can make throughout the course of the match. So I think there's a lot more opportunities for mistakes to be made by a team that's behind, and therefore have a better chance of getting back into a game if it's more even keel, which we know these two teams have done that many times, so that would make sense as to why we're seeing teams shift towards those CP maps instead of King of the Hill.
Well, we're going to get a lot of them. We're going to get some TDMs as well. Having 2 King of the Hill maps banned out of our 2 opening bans, that's leaves 1 in the pool. Maybe that'll come up later on. We'll get there should we get to that point. Bear in mind, it's a best of 7. I think a few people, myself included, if I'm honest, are a little bit surprised that we're not getting more King of the Hill action, but I guess this is showing you how the meta has changed.
Yeah, with the King of the Hill game type, it's where you see the most frags, especially in the recent cups we've seen. It is where the most kills happen a lot of the time, but the only problem is the fact that there's not as much strategy involved compared to control points. So with a structured teams like these two, they're more than happy to go towards those control points, which is completely fair enough and makes a little bit of sense. And with those map bans, again, last season, we didn't see any of Europe Street. Barely see any of it at all. But, you know, you've got to take things into priority. Do you want to ban their best game type, or do you want to ban a game type you don't play that often?
Yeah.
It's some of these decisions you need to make even before you get into this match.
Yeah, how do you think these teams are approaching this? Are they target Do you expect them to target ban each other, given how few bans they've got?
For the most part, from the teams we see normally in the general sort of Guns of Boom scene, right, you kind of ban to try and stop your opponent's strength. However, these two sides, they play it the correct way, where you want to ban to your strength. You don't want to play, you don't want to get into that position where you're going, okay, we know they're quite good on this. Let's not go for a King of the Hill pick because I'm worried about how they're playing King of the Hill. You want to go, no, we're a good King of the Hill team. Let's go for the King of the Hill pick and play it literally off the back of the confidence. And you see that a lot. And I mean, their name is Lazarus, and off the back of the Lazarus effect, a lot of what we see is that resurrection. It gets to the point where, for the most part, if they drop down early, they don't dip out. Confidence never, dissipates. They still try and keep themselves heavy. Again, it always comes back to Lord Mano because he is such a commanding officer, right? He rules with an iron fist and keeps them all pretty pumped and can get them back into the game. And we see those constant comebacks from that side.
I'm excited to see who can deal with this. I think both teams can be confident. I think Noble have got this roster that are built to, beat Lazarus and everybody else. If that stage gets to anybody now, then this is a very downhill best of 7, I feel, because there's a huge challenge to come back from. But best of 7 gives you plenty of chances to do so. But again, it's quick, it's fast, and it's Guns of Boom. We'll go. Atrium is live in the Spodek Arena.
Getting into it, obviously both teams are going to try to take standard control of their opening points, but we've already got more trying to move in. Specifically, we've got our blue representative trying to move in and take control of the C point early on. They're not going to find too much success with it though. So red, which is represented by Gonza, and the rest of their team is going to take control, but it won't stay that way for long though.
Ooh. Nice little perfect aim coming through there as Migs is going to be able to do a little bit of damage, taking down Divine King. Excellence will respond as he wants to fiddle with his kit ever so slightly as well. Not quite happy with what he is working with into this one, Harry. But already, as you touched on, the 2 CP points that have been coming into effect, they've been able to get themselves to 211. However, the red team definitely peeling out ahead. That is, of course, Lazarus in the lead.
Yeah, Lazarus had a very good start strategy to begin with. You saw they took 3 members down straight away, but players like KM came straight and managed to clean up any kills what happened afterwards. And so far, it's been a very good start from them.
Point A captured.
Being down, it's going to be actually a 3-cap coming in now, and we can see a nice fight being taken, but it is the spleen. Once again, that's the stand-in coming in for Lazarus that is going to get knocked out in the midst of that fight.
Ooh, tagging down, looking to try and get himself a little bit more as the damage will come through. Divine King performing well, looking nice into this one, and he needs to try and step himself into it. Knocker as well with an absolutely fantastic little double frag there.
Migs gets a nice flank. He'll be able to roll in and find easy capture over control point C, but it seems the same can be said for the team that's taking A right now. Maybe not, though, as Nokia is going to find himself knocked out very quickly by Excellence, and we will see the entirety of Lazarus try to move in and just swarm point A for control of that. This is just a baseline start for them, though. They're almost 300 points behind their opponents right now. They needed to find a good staging ground, so I think the focus was to go from A and now expand out to the middle of the map and B, and so far that plan seems to be working okay, but no, they lose far too many players, and it does look like Noble once again reassert their control and are likely going to end up with a trip cap here in a couple seconds.
Here's the thing, Blue, as well. As you can see, Migs right now absolutely topping it with 163 points, and the majority of those have been those multi-kills, Harry.
Yeah, it's going to get to a point now. It's such a huge gap. You don't want to get to a point you have to trip cap for a certain amount of time to even make a comeback, because I said it before this even started, on a map like this, it's a real struggle, and you've got to get so many frags on the board to even let that happen.
We're very quickly barreling towards an end here, it seems like, though, as Noble continues to maintain control of at least 2 points, and most importantly, if anything, constantly keeping grasp of that central point. A nice fight taken by Gonza as he's going to be able to win back point A. C is also being captured right now. They'll get denied on A as Lazarus will be able to maintain that at a minimum, but still, with 2 caps in their favor and less than 100 points to go now, it's looking like Noble has pretty much a lock on this first map.
Yeah, there physically can't be a comeback from this point, Blue. They should be able to shut it down in a matter of seconds, especially as they're still racking up those eliminations to tee themselves over the edge. And there it is. They open it up with a very tasty initial map.
Yeah, Divine King and Spleen just did such a great job, just made sure to control any point from A to B. And even though C wasn't covered too often, it didn't matter anyway, because just due to the fact that it forces them, the opposite team of Noble, to go here and there and trying to split them up quite a lot. But one of the main things is just due to the fact that they were separated quite a lot, which is quite strange. But you saw Spleen there, very passionate guy, very devoted. What are one of the loudest people on the circuit?
That's crazy to see as well with Nokia, the man that said you can call him Knock Knock. And You know, he went for it. He's definitely there. He stood up. He's trying to make himself look commanding. It's interesting. It's a whole different meta.
Are we all allowed to call him Knock Knock, or is that just a special thing between you and him?
No, he said on
that's his nickname.
You heard
That's
him on
what
the
he
video,
wants.
right?
Yeah.
He said we could call him that, so he was talking to everyone.
I think he was talking to Jackie, to be honest. I think
Personally, we have a good relationship.
Yeah, you've known him well.
Was
That's a
priorities,
big
right?
win. So it's 1,200 points to win a control point, and 811 were all Noble managed to get on the way back. That's a pretty dominant way to start. Hello, Lazarus. We've been here before.
Yeah, I'm very surprised by the scoreline. I'm not sure you guys are as well, because Atrium can be very hectic. You don't normally see a scoreline that huge. I said it before the match even started. It's the fact that with this map, it's not about 100 points, and it's a real struggle. You never see any trip caps or anything like that. What I liked about Lazarus was the fact that they would hold A and B or B and C, but as they're going on spawn, they'll try and trap him in many ways, keep him separated as much as possible. Just keep that spawn timing difference as large as they can.
It's exciting stuff, and it's confident stuff, right? To think, well, we don't need all three. Because I think new players, myself included, when I started playing Guns Boom ages back, you think, oh, look, I can do this mode now. Oh, I've got to this stage. Oh, I can play this thing. Oh, there's 3 points. Right, one each and one roamer? That doesn't work, really.
It's interesting as well because it has changed sort of with the meta slowly. So what we saw initially was the fact it was very heavy on roaming around, and it would basically be backcapping that was the idea of playing it, where you would capture the middle point primarily. That was where the general kerfuffle tended to go down, and then it would be the constant backcapping of a rotation, because it was where the map is designed, 1 point in the middle, the 2 elevated points, it would be a constant sort of flip around. That's kind of died down now. It more is literally defending 2 points and playing to stop spawns, so you delay that respawn time for as long as possible.
This is a moment earlier on when it was pretty evens, but then it just accelerated away and was done within 3 minutes.
It seemed like, for the most part, the mid capture point ended up being what defined the matchup, as Noble was able to hold on to that for pretty much the entire game, as far as I was able to tell, especially towards the end when they really had their lead solidified. They went all in on that central point, and as a result, were able to really crush the scoreboard at the end and just win by 400 or 500 points, however much it was.
I think that's with the middle point as well. If you've got that point right at the beginning to start with, it's so difficult to get it back, just due to the fact that on a map like Atrium, they spawn right in front of it. So the only thing you can do is either split them up as they go out, or maybe just try and maybe change the spawn cycle a little bit in terms of the times and the seconds and all that bits and pieces. But they just couldn't get anything going, as you saw there.
Let's take a look at stats for that. Migs and Spleen. Pretty evenly done in terms of what they achieve for their teams. You can't get much closer than that by, the 1 kill, really.
It's the manner in which Migs was getting kills, though, Matt. That's what makes it a little bit more impressive, right? A lot of those were very big multi-kills. And one of those ways we see it set up inside of Guns of Boom is the ideology that you will tag an opposition to the point where they're fairly low, you've broken through the majority of their health, send Migs in as he plays with that shotgun from close range. You can rack up at least, a couple of frags. He'll then basically play more of a defensive role. He'll turtle a little bit, won't overextend, so even if he's lost a lot of health, as long as he's still extending that total kill tally, that's upping the multiplier each and every time, because you don't want to lose the bounty either. If he gets taken down, it's more points flipped over to the other opponent. Obviously, the majority of the points you're gaining are from the CPs, but that is still a big, juicy increase.
Yeah, you're getting 2 points every second from each of the CPs, so that tally just kept going up and up and up. So what do we think then the Spleen and Lazarus have agreed? Are Lazarus going to play around him to his strengths? Because that typically works well if you're bringing in a stand in at quite short notice, which they had to do.
I think that's one of the main things to talk about with Spleen, was just due to the fact that with him, he's one of the players who brings the momentum, the aggression to the team, and it's very hard to stop a man like that. And when we was at the Season 1 finals, he was a standout player for his last team, mainly due to the fact that even though he IGL'd, he didn't really sacrifice any of his fragging ability to try and get his team pumped, get him going in any way, shape or form. So it's probably added more to the aggression on the side of Lazarus.
Look at him. That's Lazarus on the right-hand side of the Spodek. Maybe a few surprises for him.
The good news, though, is when you look at Lazarus, because I think we actually went to them first when the game closed out there, and it didn't look like they were too angry. I mean, obviously, we saw a little bit of it coming out from Spleen, but I think amongst the other 3 players, they were still pretty calm and composed. Like, all right, guys, first map's over with. We'll fix that up in the next one as well. And that's a good attitude to have on such a big stage like this. Is I feel like the frustration can overwhelm you relatively quickly if you let it get to you.
Like I said, we've been here before. Both of these teams have lost maps. Both of these teams have lost games. Only one of them has ever won a final. And it's a bit different here because, of course, those have come through double elimination brackets. They've met in the opening round of a double elimination every time, and they've met in the last bit of it as well. Here, it's one and the same thing. It's one big match. And the winner of this will get 40,000 US dollars, 10,000 to the runner-up. But the winner also goes to the next Gods of Boom. Straight away, they go to the next stadium event that we do, and the other one is going to be down in the Challenger Series with everybody else.
Yeah, and that's a nice, little assurance to have coming out of this tournament, to not have to worry about keeping up your performance in those online cups. Obviously, we'd imagine they'd still want to do it for the prize pool that comes with that, and along with the chance to still go to the Pro Series lands as well. But just having that guaranteed slot at the next big Gods of Boom event is going to be a huge weight off of the team's shoulders that wins this. Unfortunately, that adds additional pressure onto this specific match.
Yeah, yeah. And you want to stay match fit as well, right? You need to compete during the season. You can't just rock up at the next Gods of Boom. Well, you could.
Technically, yeah.
I mean, if you
probably
want
wouldn't be too
to.
smart, but
No.
You know, I mean, this pretty much is the team of absolute ballers, Matt. I mean, if there's one team you got to describe as being pretty cool,
Yeah.
it'd be them.
Is this your team? Is it, Jackie?
No, I always find it interesting is, that they were more of the side that really came into it and weren't phased. That was the bit that, gave me that sort of interest to them, right? Because for a lot of the teams that walked in that first LAN event, you could see the nerves because it was literally, I'm used to playing this game in such a different environment in my own time. I'm now here. I'm being paid. I'm being in this environment. I'm involved in esports that to them was absolutely crazy because the background they come from as well, from casual gaming into being involved in an esports scene and everything that comes along with it, with commentators, the stage, it all around them. They didn't give a damn. They would just live in their movie. And it's crazy to see they're still doing that.
Yeah, they're just still
that's a
enjoying
huge
it.
credit to him as well.
Yeah, because with Lazarus now, even if they win this match, or either team does, one of the main talking points we've got to think about is for the future events. If they already qualify here, they can hide their strategies, they can hide their tactics, they can play default and standard until when the time comes, there's another event, and they're going to be so prepared and maybe have some aces up their sleeves.
Oh, you're looking long-term here, Lethal. I
I
like
am.
it. Military Warehouse is where we're going to go, so that's Lazarus's pick. So that's TDM. So how do we expect these two teams to stand up against each other on something which is just about putting the bodies down?
I think for this one we could expect a lot more team-centric play. Obviously, we're still going to look for players, try to go for flanks and back pushes to try and catch a few players off guard and get multi-pickups that way. But for the most part, I think it's going to be more just big team fights that we're going to be looking forward to in this matchup.
Yeah.
So let's delve into that unusual thing of Guns of Boom in general, that yes, you're getting points for eliminations and obviously doubles and triples, they're going to get more. So there is something to be gained, and you touched on this earlier, Jackie, there's something to be gained about not actually all trying to get the kills, but somebody getting a lot of them.
Yeah, basically utilizing one player as being the person you want to divvy the majority of frags towards if you can, and setting him up. A lot of the issues we saw in the early sort of seasons of going into it would be teams completely overcommitting towards firefights and just charging in using all the utility early and leaving themselves in a scenario where they're basically just stuck after that fight to then set up the other team for a mass amount of points. Because sure, you win that first initial confrontation, but then bear in mind you've now got no utility left. You're stuck there with minimal amounts of HP or just really easy pickings, right? One guy can come along, say Migs with a shotgun, that's 4 frags. The difference of points on one player, just finding all of those kills combined rather than what they did in the past where it's 1-for-1 trades, that is the big impact number because that's what drives you up. And we've seen that so many times in TDM, that will give a team the leg up massively. And that's why the meta kind of shifted over into now a style where maybe with Killing Machine, you'll allow him to play more of a looser rotate style. You'll soften up opponents. Killing Machine will go in for that final killing blow and try and see how long he can draw out that streak for.
Yeah, it's a challenge. And this one is to 500. You can get 100 points in the first 10 seconds of this if everything goes your way. So this can suddenly get rapidly out of hand as those elimination bonuses stack up. It's unusual, isn't it, Blue, to be thinking as a team and think, okay, well, maybe I don't want to finish this guy off in front of me.
Yeah, very much the case. And you do have to be careful with that. Obviously, if you have a player that's stacking up a massive amount of frags very quickly, you have to make sure that you're going to be in a good position to try and keep them alive, as well as there's the bounty that can come from knocking out the players that are going on streaks. And that's a good comeback mechanic for the teams that are falling behind due to those players stacking up those massive streaks. So you have to be very cautious about when you aggress with your your kind of frontline player that you're looking to pick up the majority of frags, which I think in this case we've seen before is going to be KM and Divine King in a lot of cases. May not be the case though, judging from what we saw on that first map. It seems like some other players may be picking up the leading role when it comes to fragging potential as well now. So we'll see how that evolves in this matchup.
We will find out shortly. We're just going to go to a short break here in the Spodek Arena, and then we'll be back with Lazarus and Noble and the Season 2 kickoff. It's only just begun. The Gods of Boom, our first ever stadium level tournament for Guns of Booming, kicking off season 2. A massive year of competition ahead of us with the Challenger Series coming back to you soon that you can compete in from home. Do well in that and 6 teams get invited to Pro Series lands. Do well in those, you could be at the next one of these. Later in the year, Gods of Boom will return with the winner of this and 2 teams who've qualified for it during the Challenger Series and Pro Series matches, and there'll be an invite team as well. 4 will come to the next Gods of Boom, but there's 2 here right now. Noble and Lazarus kick things off. 1 game in, and we are about to go to our first TDM, and it's best of 7 on Military Warehouse. And Lazarus, they're calm and collected, sure. We know they can do that. We're not phased, or they're not phased by walking out to Spodek. Okay. They're not looking happy, you might think, but then again, we know that they do shout and talk a lot.
I mean, ultimately it's a best of 7, right? 1 map down, not a big deal. You need 4 to win. So I don't think they're going to be too stressed about it yet. Just losing 1 map, if this trend continues and we see Noble go up, 3-0, then I think the attitudes will be very different. So we'll have to see if that is going to be the case, or if we stick more with tradition and see these teams kind of start to trade maps back and forth a little bit more.
What's the history between these guys when it comes to TDMs?
It's always been very close and always been a nail-biter. These 2 teams, the last time they played on this particular map, I think it was within like 10 points, something like that, and it was something ridiculous. And one thing you've got to remember now is that this is Noble's map pick. This is their chance, and last time it was Lazarus' map pick, so it's a little bit of a worry here to see exactly how it will pan out. But now with Nokia on the team, and there's going to be a lot more aggression here, it's going to be some interesting stuff.
Military Warehouse will be our second map and our first TDM of the day. Let's go take a look at that. We'll dive into it during the game with a brilliant AR spectator, but you know this well. It's lit up, it's green in places. I'm never quite sure what the green stuff is. Has it been ever announced?
It's Excellence fluid, right? it's pumped straight out from Excellence,
right.
And they added it to the map because that's just how much damage he deals, Matt.
Oh, it's just like one of those things you do in games where you put a kind of little icon on the map to represent.
It's either that or the goo from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Could have been that as well.
Yeah.
Now you've got us all thinking what that was called, and we all dip.
There you go.
Well done, well done. Well done, producer Mateus. I'm not going to claim any credit for that dip. Gosh, he had that quickly. He's probably watching that all the time. Yeah, so it's dip. So don't shoot the barrels, or that will turn out badly. All right, there's Noble. Ready. Looking pretty relaxed. I can't believe the way he got out of his seat after that first map and just strode across the biggest stage you can imagine and just roared at everybody.
I mean, he's got this kind of opportunity, right? He's really selling it. He wants to make the most of this, and you can't blame him, given the opportunity that both of these teams have been given. But here we go, ladies and gentlemen, into our second matchup and our first TDM. It's going to get started off with some nice fragging potential coming out here as well. But it will lead our blue squad, which I believe is going to be Noble again, to take an early lead.
Beautiful start as the damage is coming through. The sniper rifle's in close range where you can just chunk that health down so low in the early confrontations to get into a good position. Lord Mano is able to just double down as well, actually building himself a nice variety of points. They're keeping this one close so far.
It's going to be a nice push coming out, however, as they try to overwhelm Minx, but he's going to be able to hold on very nicely. Picks up at least 1 more on the shotgun before ending up getting knocked out. Now it's Gonzo, picking up 2 quick ones for himself as well, as he finds 2 more knockouts there and continues to push his team further ahead.
One of the things we see quite commonly on this map as well is the utilization of those sniper rifles, Harry, because it can actually work very effectively. Killing Machine especially loves those aggressive angles.
Yeah, it's extremely difficult depending on the situation you're in. Normally he's quite an aggressive player, but it'll be quite passive, especially on a map like this. He wants to get at least as much damage done as possible. But you remember, Excellence, he's the sort of guy who will do the same thing. Spoke to him, he said to me that normally he does play quite passive, damage deals a lot, normally plays support, but now he's playing a lot more aggressive this time because he knows he needs to bring up the pace tenfold.
Gonzo, unfortunately, overextending himself slightly leads to his elimination, along with Minx getting knocked out shortly after that. This is a good opportunity now for Lazarus to work their way back into it, and in fact, it seems they're just about to do that. A very close scoreline right now between these 2 teams, only about a 30-point difference. So, could be looking at either team pushing forward and taking the lead here as we do enter bit of a pullback moment as Lazarus are looking to regroup. You can see a lot of their players are on respawn right now, so I think they're just waiting for them to get back onto the board. And Noble, like we talked about in the pregame, are looking to stick together and take fights as a full 4-man group for the most part.
This is way better from Noble as well. In the past, a lot of what we used to see was constant over-aggression in this scenario, where they would push out, they would then get into a scenario where you still have that spawn protect, and they would lose the whole firefight. This time, they're playing further back, they're playing very supportive of each other. They've actually adapted majorly, and it's working on this map now.
It's working great for them now, especially with the lead that they've been able to take forward at this point. They're making these conjoined pushes. There's players like, I think we saw Spleen before try to make a flank against these guys, but ultimately wasn't able to find the necessary impact to fully wipe out the team. And again, when you look at it here, it's looking like Noble are maintaining good control. However, Lazarus are finding a little bit of momentum to work back in their favor, but they've fallen behind by nearly 100 points here, so they're going to have to look for a quicker way to get back into the game.
Tags coming through from the shotgun. KM still living his movie as he's just, you know, projecting himself ahead. He normally is a little bit of a naughty man when it comes to finding the frags, but actually for the most part, it's been Migs. The veto's worked out very well for him. Atrium and here as well, Military Warehouse, is the fact that this is where he thrives, Harry.
Yeah, this is the guy I was going to speak about, literally, as you were saying that. With Migs, he exploits weaknesses so well, just due to the fact that he's the most aggressive player, he's the one giving the info for the rest of the team, and now, look at the difference it's made. They're figuring out their strategy so quick, and the scoreline is just increasing.
Yeah, not far away here, Blue. It looks like they're going to take it.
Yeah, only about two or three more knockouts necessary here for these guys to push ahead and be able to take control of map number 2, and that would give them a definitive lead halfway to victory overall for this match at the Gods of Boom event. However, they seem to be having a little bit of a struggle picking up those last few frags. They're nearly there, though. At 491, they really just need one more pickup, and there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. It's Noble once again taking control, now establishing a 2-0 lead early on in this best of 7, with Lazarus yet to find a response either on our capture point or deathmatch maps.
He's enjoying himself, isn't he? He's not out of his seat roaring at the teams in the audience just now, but that's because the job is getting done. And Noble go 2. Just taking a moment there on stage.
I think the pressure's more off their shoulders now. They're a little bit more comfortable. After that first game, I was thinking to myself, maybe Lazarus are just trying to get into the stride of things, trying to get a little bit comfortable considering the setting. But Noble, they're just storming ahead. That's the first time I've seen them play that game type in a way where the lead was so huge. Because mainly due to the fact that against other teams, it's not about a 100, 200 point difference, but to do it against Lazarus, that's just some insane stuff.
Yeah, you can see here 50 points, then got pulled back, and it was almost exactly even. And then the gap of over 100 points ended up. It was a bit of a surprise that they pulled away so quickly. So what happened for them? Was it the pushes that were working out? Were they doing as we were talking about before the game and managing to funnel all the kills towards Migs?
If anything, it seemed like it was more the fact they've actually now played a lot more lax when it comes to that later game scenario, right? We always saw over-aggression, which was way too... It just doesn't work out in Guns of Boom, right? When you have that first firefight, the majority of the health you lose, you're then left with no grenades, no health. There's nothing you can really do. At that point, if you commit to a fight, you're just going to lose it, and it's easy trades. Rather than doing that, they played as all 4 players, and as you can see there, Migs, that's why it worked so well. He was constantly racking up those frags. He was in a scenario to carry on and add to that tally. 12 kills, that's a lot, man.
I mean, he had so many more points there, but same kills, assists, and so on. So when you look at that, you might think, well, how did he manage that? But it's because of that momentum, isn't it? It's because you get 2, you're getting 12. You get a triple, you're getting 15 instead of the 10 that you get from an elimination. Then it starts to add and add and add. Now, that's TDM. We go to Farming Complex for the next one. I think this is Lazarus' second pick. That's Control Point. So we're leaving TDM for a while. We've got a couple of those maps later on in the pool if we get there. We will go to Farming Complex and EU Square. That's our 3rd and 4th maps, both control points again. And if you're Lazarus, you now got to shake off a TDM bloodbath that ran away from you and go back to finding caps.
They need to find a way, I think, to play more as a team right now, especially in those TDM matchups, because that's really what we were looking at there with Noble, was just really good communication and constantly sticking together. I think we saw a really good example of that when we were watching it from the AR perspective in that last game, where they had all their players grouped up. It was Spleen, I think, that tried to make a flank move on the top side of the map, and while it did manage to work out and take out, I believe, 2 of the members of Noble, they quickly adjusted, had their other players refocus on that, stopped that from becoming too much of a threat, and then went back into locking down the other players trying to move out of Lazarus' spawn. The same can be said with their capture point play here so far, in that they've generally just been having a more focused goal in these matchups compared to Lazarus, who's kind of just been going about the movement. So we're going to have to see if Lazarus can regroup and play more of a team-centric style going into this next map.
And one thing I want to point out as well, with Noble, they seem a lot more calm and collective. Another point which Jackie made is the fact that before, when they were very over-aggressive, you saw a lot of times where they were so aggressive, the opposite team, their opponents, respawn immunity, they were shooting too soon, all the bits and pieces. But you see their playstyles change in an instant. So they'll sell up quick, they'll be very aggressive here and there, and they seem like a lot more controlled team. And the only thing I was worried about with Lazarus is the fact that with Spleen, it's one of those situations where when you've got another player on your team, it's either a honeymoon period or it can go downhill from there.
So Lazarus have got to stop this now. They've been behind before. As we mentioned, these teams have met each other so many times in Season 1. Lazarus have lost some of those games. They've lost an opening game of a dual elimination. They've dropped down. They fought all the way through the loser's bracket. Noble, who were back-to-back back then, thought, OK, finally, we've brushed them aside. We can push our way to the final. There we go, through the winner's bracket. Who comes up out of the lower bracket? Them again. And then they beat you in the final. Noble would love to put a 4-0 past them here, but to beat Lazarus is one thing. 4-0 them is unlikely.
Revenge would be sweet
Wouldn't
if it was a 4-0, because after all the times they've lost and they just come back and win in 4-0, that's just not a revenge match. That's a statement to say, no, we are the best. We know last season you was, but this time it's our season.
So Killing Machine, captain of Noble, looking pretty chilled and relaxed on the left-hand side of their desk. They'll bring us to Farming Complex. So in terms of caps and points for this, we mentioned that Atrium kind of spread out with the elevated points on the side. What are we expecting for Farming Complex?
It's way harder with the rotations on a map like this, where we see it literally is just the lockdown of pretty much the central location of the map, and at that point, trying to deny it off the back of spawns, because gaining really even two flags on this is still pretty hard. It's one of the maps where it's way more spread out. There's a lot of close corridors and choke points that cut you off completely. But this is a map where Lazarus tend to thrive. It's very heavily based on that micromanagement from Lord Mano. However, that's actually something that it doesn't seem like is really coming through at the moment at this event. It's odd. Noble almost look like what we expect to see from Lazarus. In terms of the communication, the way they're talking about things, Killing Machine has definitely adapted his playstyle an awful lot, seeming now to take a little bit of a back step, go into that supportive role, but utilize some of the things he's learned from playing against Lazarus in the past and adding that to the roster.
I was talking to Killing Machine yesterday, and they were saying how excited they are to be here, and I asked them how they'd prepared for this. And he was kind of laid back about the whole deal. And I don't mean in a sort of, well, I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to be cagey and keep it to yourself kind of way. Yeah, they've stratted. Yeah, they've got new call-outs. Yeah, they've kind of worked deeper into that side of playing a competitive FPS. But they were definitely excited to be here, but in a kind of, ready to do it sort of way. There was no kind of, oh my God, have you seen this? Look at the size of it kind of thing at all. They're like, yeah. Like they've basically been here many times before. They have, not in this arena, but they were talking like, yeah, we're excited to be on it, as though they've done that many times. The Spodek isn't a big deal. We'll come out and win this thing. In good shape right now. There he is.
I think one point I want to make as well, when you're a very well-prepared team like Noble, to be on a stage like this, it's very easy to panic and get a bit overzealous here and there. But I've never seen a team like this before. It's amazing how just one player can change the motive of everything.
Lazarus there. That doesn't look like Lazarus. That's what you're getting at, isn't it, Jackie? This feels the other way around right now.
Yeah, it's the complete change. For the most part as well, when you look at it, it's the way Lord Mano's talking. Normally it's very commanding, it's very stern, but he's loud with it, and there is sort of an upbeat tone underlined, right? That really isn't here right now. He seems more frustrated, Matt.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because we've said, he shouts.
Yeah.
He tells everybody what to do. They do what he say. You've called him, what, a commanding officer, but he's an encouraging commanding officer, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, you never want to annoy the commanding officer, right?
No.
You don't want to hold books for 4 hours.
Hold books for 4 hours?
When you put your arms out and you hold books like that.
You thinking
really
of the
helps your
Karate
wrist.
Kid right now?
Pretty much. It works. I mean, that's what Lord Mano used to do. Maybe he hasn't had time to do that with Spleen, so...
We'll get him to work
Hold
his
some
arms
books,
a bit more.
yeah.
Okay, well...
All that wrist action.
Spleen can hold a lot of books, I think.
Yeah.
But does Lord Mano have enough books for him to hold is what we will find out as we make our way. Military Warehouse went to Noble. 2 of them done. 4 they need. Farming Complex and then EU Square come up next. I like their chances, to be honest. I think this is their day now.
especially if they're able to use the same strategies they did on the first map as well, and just maintain good control over the central point throughout most of this map, they're going to be, in my opinion, in pretty good shape to try and sweep this up to a 3-0, which is definitely going to cause some frustrations on Lazarus, because now it's like, oh great, now we just got to win 4 maps straight. They've won the first 3 in quite a definitive fashion if we assume it goes that way once again, and that's just going to put them in a really discouraging position. So we'd have to hope that Lazarus has something up their sleeve for this map specifically, as if not, this is when the snowball is really going to start rolling in Noble's favor.
It's weird though, Blue, right? Because normally, historically, when we look at the maps here that they actually have left, you would favor Lazarus for both of those, because this is warmly where they can actually get into it and they'd be able to have that sort of commanding chief. They would rotate off the back of it and it would work very nicely. The other teams in the past would always struggle because they'd over-rotate, they'd push in way too deep. However, that's just not an issue anymore. It's like they've just caught up to speed now. They're finally on the same par. It's not one team being slightly ahead in terms of having a core IGL, having defined roles. Both teams are now teams.
And that's really exciting because Noble, yes, they've lost to Lazarus before. When they were back-to-back, they lost to Black Bulls before, again and again. But they weren't demolished by them. They weren't like they shouldn't be in that part of the competition. They didn't get there through luck. They got that through skill and some teamwork. We did think maybe the teamwork was where they could make a big improvement. Well, if that's done, then this is suddenly a big surprise for Lazarus. Suddenly they've got a much greater threat than perhaps they did. I don't think Lazarus are easily a team who would underestimate an opposition, but I wouldn't blame them for coming here and thinking, well, we're really confident about this game because we know we can beat them when it counts.
Yeah, with Lazarus now, it's going to be very difficult. They just need to reset the mentality, get that morale back on board. But even with the Season 1 finals, they did get knocked into the elimination bracket quite early, but they have a lot of stamina and managed to creep up. This time round, they need to get this done in one match. It's going to be very hard. It's going to be a huge struggle. We know there's some changes here and there, but I just feel like Nokia being on this Noble squad, it's made it such an aggressive team, so prepared and well orchestrated, that it makes you think, well, what can Lazarus actually do this time? And I never would have thought in a million years I would actually say that.
He was loud when he was with Amplified during Season 1 as well. He's maybe not Lord Mano loud, but he's loud. He's going to be helping sort of the energy in that team, and if the game is going their way, then these are all things that will take a snowball. Can it go 2-0, 3-0 to Noble or to Lazarus? Remember that team they're facing is a team they know how to beat.
All right, well, let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. It's our second capture point map of the series. Once more, as you can see at the top, Noble currently holds the lead at 2-0 in their favor. We can also get a nice little preview of some of those skins that we can see on the players now with the nice Lazarus sitting on the back of their jerseys as both teams start this off with just a basic cap of their home point, but it quickly goes over to Noble for the second point as they take control of middle.
Well, trying to regain control, Blues. They instantly fight for it. They've actually been able to trade this one over now.
Point B is under
There's the
attack.
fight. That's the lockdown as well. Noble actually playing this in more of a classic style. This is what we used to see. This was pretty much the Lazarus strategy, really, where it would be the constant fight over the B center point, and you would hold the choke point because the rotation's in from the A site, and you can see they're very close choke points, Harry.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried at the moment because it seems like Noble were very separated. I think they were trying to get a plan of attack where a couple of players will flank, meet each other halfway, and then see what can get done. But they just got stomped on straight away, and it seems to be even harder, well, making lives harder for themselves, in all fairness.
See Gonza there ending up in a slightly bad position and finally getting knocked out, but he picks up 2 more frags along the way before being eliminated. It's the issue with getting control of this central point that they're struggling with right now. Was weak for a few seconds there, but unfortunately players not able to spawn back in quickly enough, but we are going to see a Merciless being claimed by Gonza again as he starts the push towards the midpoint to try and recap it in their team's favor. They've only been able to take control of C for the most part, but now they're going for all 3, and it's like that they're going to get it, whereas we're going to see Lazarus just go for the back cap on their other point right now.
This is ridiculous. It never normally happens like this either. This is so hard to get into a scenario where this is actually the way it goes. And one of the reasons they are even in the lead is because of what Excellence has been doing. We saw a double elimination off the back of a Blade Master. That's not something you can repeat very easily. That's the only fact they're actually in the lead.
As the action continues here, it is looking like Lazarus are slowly getting back control of that central B point. It has just flipped over to neutral and soon should be going into their favor, but no, Migs is going to make a push, denies it at the last second. Excellence gets himself into the fight as well, but can't maintain. Gonza now takes up the position here in middle and is going to look to complete the cap, but no, once again, the trades continue to go back and forth, but at the end of the day, it looks like Lazarus, at least for now, will maintain control over B and try to get back at 2 cap, but no, the outside points have once again been taken over by Noble. Thankfully for the guys on Lazarus, though, they are getting back control over A. A, but just as they do that, B flips over the other direction again, and we're going to see the guys from Noble maintain a 2-cap control along with this now 150-point lead that they have.
Yeah, this is outrageous, Blue. They're in such a horrible predicament right now. 200 points ahead, and it's looking like they're going to be able to dominate and close it down from this point onwards. They've got the sites that are harder to gain control of because of the choke points as well. Mano coming back through will be able to remove Gonza from the equation, but it surely isn't enough. Lazarus struggling and crumbling. It's got to be going down from here. They just can't get into it. They would need to reverse sweep if they lose this map.
In fact, only just that single point that the guys have that Noble seem to have might be enough for them to be able to win the map at this point, but they're still going to push for 2 regardless. They will lose their 8 point, but they've got a strong grasp on B now, and with just about 50 points to go, they might have it locked down. In fact, nearly losing that B point could be dangerous for them, but Noble, even with the 2-cap on the outside points, it just doesn't seem like it's going to be enough. Noble focusing everything on the middle, but at the end of the day, it's once again going to be Noble that take it, and a 3-0 lead in the series that now comes with it. Only one more away from being claimed our Gods of Boom champions here at Katowice.
Now that's a good bit of kind of team encouragement happening immediately for Lazarus. Nokia on the other side, holding his shirt, punching his logo there and going, yeah, we're Noble, we've got you this time. There's KM. Little bit of a tremble there. I'm not embarrassing him by saying that. I want to point out how important this is to them. You just saw it a little bit. I think we've all felt it sometimes on a big stage. I've had that little moment, just like waiting to do it on a, in a big stadium like this. I'm not surprised it's getting to them a bit, and it's 3-0. It's so in reach now.
I think they're a little bit surprised by the scoreline. Now, of course, they're going to be very happy about it. But now they need to close out this series. We've seen it before, time and time again. They'll get a good lead, and then slowly before Lazarus will start coming back. They need to do it now before potential reverse sweep. But even from what you've seen from that game, even from the previous games now, the scoreline has been huge.
Yeah, it's crazy as well because the difference is there. I imagine it'll probably be highlighted as well. Excellence, there it is, just as I talked about it. 255 score, 12 kills, but the manner in which he was accumulating those points is just outrageous. Up to a triple kill, then he was able to add in the Blade Master as well. It's these sort of things that should not be happening for him, and he was doing it time and time again. Gave them the early lead, Blue, but as we saw, that doesn't really matter.
No, unfortunately, the individual effort from him mattered not when we were just seeing Noble make the right adjustment far faster than Lazarus was, and that ultimately came down to what it was, because I think from a 1v1 perspective, these guys were incredibly even matched in that map. The difference came down to Noble were making the rotates that constantly kept them at least a 1-point advantage for pretty much the entire map, especially after we got past the midpoint. Lazarus did have that initial lead going for a little bit, but they quickly lost it right around the 500-point mark for both teams, and from that point forward, it was just constant rotate after rotate from Noble to keep control of 2 points.
I'm pleased to see Lord Mano and Lazarus coming out of that thinking, okay, yeah, we had that one, but that was okay, and we can rise up from there. It wasn't that close at the end. Here's some of the highlights from it. You can see nearly a minute in, and the score starts to move now.
Well, this is the issue. I mentioned it at the start with Noble that they were quite separated. They weren't really gelling that well to begin with, but they just turned it on its head straight away. That just proves that their communication is just that little bit stronger, and they need a little bit more small talk as well. But Nokia, I said it before, one of the most passionate players in the Guns of Boom scene, and he wants this more than anyone.
That's I love Guns of Boom.
I know.
That's what that was. He's telling Lazarus, although Lazarus don't know.
I think the other thing that Noble was doing so well in that matchup as well is we were seeing Lazarus do it, but Noble was way more efficient at this, is when it was brought down to like one player that was able to hold on to a point before you had a swarm of players from Lazarus about to move in and take control. They were able to delay when they were on like 10 or 20 HP by just hiding behind a piece of cover really quickly and kind of just keep the fact that they're in that corner a little bit of a threat for the players on Lazarus. That kept them back long enough to where Noble was able to weigh their respawns appropriately to even if they lost the point, they would very quickly, within a few seconds, have someone there to trade it back out and take it back into their favor.
If I said that you had to play a game, Lazarus, on Europe Square, a control point map, how are they feeling about that?
It's very 50-50. It's one of the biggest maps on the map pool, and the only thing I can mention about that is the fact that if you do get a huge lead on this, it's very, very difficult to come back one way or another. It's very rare you get these trip caps. I've said it before. On Atrium, sometimes you can, depend on the situation, but on this map, it's very tough. It gets played quite a lot. Strategies are quite the same, quite similar, especially with the starting ones as well, but I think it's going to come to the first minute of the game.
Is it hard to hold the caps just because of the size of the map, or is it the obstacles and positions as well?
It's more the obstacles and geometry of the map. Like, for example, when you do get that middle point, you're so far away, it gives your opponents time to set up, get ready for the next spawn cycle. And in those kind of situations, you kind of like fall off a little bit. But I've seen Noble make some clutch comebacks in the past, and even when they're on the losing side. But on the winning side, we'll have to see what happens.
The thing that makes it very interesting, Matt, and gives it a big storyline going into what potentially could be the final map here to close it out in a 4-0 fashion, is if memory serves me correctly, back at the Season 1 finals, this was the map that we saw that allowed Lazarus at the time to crown themselves at the champion. This was the final map they played. It was a close affair, and Lord Mano's split-second decision-making is what secured them the victory within about 30 to 40 points. The fact is, it comes down to this again. However, the shoe is completely on the other foot now. And what a fitting end it would be if they're going to have a 4-0 to do it on that map.
Yeah, that's a nice way to round this thing out. But if you're Lord Mano, I guess you come into this with some measure of confidence that this is not over yet. It could be. If Noble take this, as they did Atrium, Military Warehouse, and Farming Complex, then they'll lift the big trophy and be the first ever Gods of Boom.
And here we go, ladies and gentlemen, in what could be the final map of the initial Gods of Boom showdown here between Lazarus and Noble. Noble start things off with a massive lead in their favor for this series, but they'll have to do it one more time on a yet another control point map. Lazarus will be the blue team, Noble will be the red team, and it looks like Lazarus are once again going to start things off with the central cap going into their favor. You'll know that they bypassed completely on the C cap, and that is what Noble is currently trying to back cap for themselves.
C capture point is the awkward one point. That's for the most part where you have the two only close inside entry angles towards the site, so it's very awkward to get in there. B site is going to be the main affair, but they're actually in a position now to just lock down all 3 points. Harry, this is just lunacy.
I said it before, like, it's so rare to happen, but if this happens now, I really do worry. And one of the things we spoke about before is that Lazarus, they got overzealous. They pushed way too hard. They gave them that respawn immunity, the advantage to get some damage done and take the middle point back.
Point C seems to be the focus right now for Lazarus, and they do finally get it back. They're able to force the respawn timer to be a little bit too harsh on Noble to try to keep pushing for control of it. B also is going to come under pressure relatively quickly here, so Lazarus is looking to get back into it quickly, but Noble already have a good lead established for themselves, so they don't have to worry about the loss of the B point too much just yet, so long as they can respawn and get back control of it quickly, which is what they're trying to do now. But KM will be taken out on the point. It's now going to come down to Nokia once again to try and push back into it. They will get a quick Blade Master. They have another respawn coming in and trying to assist them, as they also once again are back capping that C point. Even if they lose B, which is likely to happen at this point, they've got A and C still in their favor, but C doesn't remain that way for long. It does shift quickly back into Lazarus's favor.
Finally, there is some life out of Lazarus. They needed to do something. 450 points. They're racking them up fairly quickly, and Excellence is the man that's actually giving them that instantaneous jolt up to keep it close. They can get back into the game here. A reverse sweep could potentially be afoot, but it all has to start with this map, Europe Square. There is still the lead for Noble. 700 points as it's going up, and they're starting to find themselves back again in the position to command it. They got overzealous, Harry. They pushed deep once again.
Oh, time and time again we see it happen, and it's just so annoying at times. Lord Mano did make the right decision earlier where he was going to push, but then pull back and go for A. But the rest of them just decided not to, so this is quite confusing stuff here.
Where is Lazarus right now? They still are waiting on one player to go for a respawn, but for the others, this is massive control. All 3 points going into their favor for Noble.
Oh.
Well, it does seem like we had a player, unfortunately, drop out of the map there, and that would explain, obviously, the complete lack of Lazarus players on the board. So excuse that, folks. We are going to restart the map.
Yeah, that explains quite a lot. Because for a moment then we're going, oh, the red one's, that one's red, that one's red. In fact, everybody's red. Pretty much everything is red. Blue, just not really any of that anywhere. Where are they all?
It was one of those where you look at it and you just go, surely they've not tilted that hard. You know what, boys? You can have it.
Yeah,
Sound.
we're
Have
just
a
gonna
4-0.
stay
Someone actually just walked off the stage.
Push the
We'll just
phone
go and
down.
explore the city, and you have your win over there. Enjoy your trophy.
Yeah. I had a good run. Just walks out.
Cheers.
Yeah.
So that needs to happen again. It kind of stalled halfway before the disconnect as well. Noble had a decent lead there, a couple of 100 points there in a moment, and then their score kind of stalled and it all kind of got scrapped over, and Noble started to lose that little bit of lead. Lazarus were coming back into it. A little bit frustrating when you lose that bit of a momentum because of a technical issue, but some encouragement for him to come back and do it again.
Yeah, obviously we don't know when exactly that disconnect ended up happening, but it seems like right before that point, it was really Lazarus that had taken control of the matchup and seemed like it was going to remain that way for the next few minutes in the map itself. So we'll see if that is going to remain the case again. Obviously, teams will probably deploy pretty similar strategies going out on the map for the first time, but it was interesting to see Lazarus have such a heavy focus on that central point to start out there in comparison to taking their close cap C.
Turns out it was quite early on in that match that they had
It
disconnect,
was,
actually.
okay.
So
That
we may
explains
have
a
been
lot.
Makes
watching a
sense.
pretty strong three-man performance from Lazarus in the meantime. So that'll get completely started from scratch. We'll go back to 0-0 and all the control points, and we will take that to Europe Square. And if I was Lazarus, I'd be annoyed by that. But if I can deal with the frustrations of it, I think we can go off and take this one back.
Or Noble could be frustrated just due to the fact that they thought they could win, take the series, and that's Lazarus' chance to go, do you know what, we need to make a stand now, just due to the fact that there's still quite a few mistakes they were making. Maybe some minor mistakes, some major ones as well. But the only problem is the fact that when they do get those 2-point control, they need to set up, get those angles, maybe Wolfpack to get the trip cap if things get a bit nasty here and there. But it's a real struggle to ask because you can't just do it within a few minutes.
What are the major flaws that you think they made?
One especially where they had 2 points, we saw a couple of players pushing way too far into their spawn. So when Noble had a respawn immunity, they're going to have a huge advantage going in and basically got map control straight away. But the next thing as well is Noble, when they're trying to get that 3rd point, or even try and go for the 2nd one, they're always going around as a wolf pack, but somehow, not just strategically, but they'll talk to each other, comms are strong, and they're baiting and switching a lot more than Lazarus are.
There's an extra little element at play here, and you can see Nokia doing it just then. These teams can look at each other.
Yes.
Now, in some of the games that we do here in the Spodek Arena, like the Major that's happening for CSGO, there's a big wall in between the teams which rises up out of the floor so you can't see flashbangs and things like that. That's not applicable to what we're doing here. So Nokia is eyeballing Lazarus, laid back in his chair. You can just see him at the far point of the screen there. He's the rightmost player of the 4 for Noble. Yeah, they're having a little bit of a chat now, but earlier on, he's just sort of leaning back a little bit, just looking at them, doing the old I Heart Guns a Boom thing, but he's kind of trying to get to Lazarus. When we've done LANs before, Jackie, they've not had this kind of an angular setup where the other team is somewhat in front of them.
Yeah, this is the first time all of the players, all 8 of them are on that grand stage, have been able to look each other directly in the eyes, see their opponents ahead of them. You think in the downtime as well, when they're waiting for those respawns, and you can see the visible grins that are coming through from their opponents just mere feet away, it can get to you. It's going to be a tilter. It definitely can be a bit of a mental game that can play on them. And I mean, fair play. It's a bit of an additional element, right? If you're going to be someone that wants to showvote a little bit, it can go both ways. If you start to lose the map, it really does come back to bite you in the bottom. However, Noble have been looking pretty damn good. So showmanship there could be breaking the confidence that we normally see from Lazarus, because they've looked pretty quiet, Matt. They haven't looked like themselves.
Yeah, that's right. And I have no problem at all. I don't think anybody would have with the team getting to their other team mentally as well as physically. You've got to outplay them, but there's something to be said about making them think you're going to outplay them as well. 3-0 up, that also kind of seals the deal, really. Then you do know you can sit there and go, yeah, okay, you're going to get this back from us. But the flip side to that is if Lazarus take this map and another, then Noble start to look a little overconfident, and we're trying to seal the deal before it was done. This map is Europe Square control point. If we get a win from Lazarus here, and on the showing of that last one, yeah, more likely, I think, than the previous ones, Skyscraper will be the 5th map of this best of 7, which is going back to TDM.
Yeah, this one is a bit of a strange one at times because you get some start strategies where they all go very aggressive high, but sometimes a lot of players nowadays will have a pretty much a stalemate situation, try and get the angles very early. It depends what kind of team we'll see, but I'm hoping Lazarus don't act too much like a mixed team because right now Noble looks so structured in comparison.
What do you mean by a mixed team?
When I say a mixed team, I mean some of the teams which don't have too much structure, even though they do plan out some strategies here and there, they kind of lone wolf it a little bit just to kind of egg themselves forward to try and get extra points on the board, but sometimes that's not the case. But the only thing is, though, with the standing of Spleen, that's why I said about the honeymoon period, it can go really high or it can go anywhere at all. It seems to be the latter. But with Noble, they've been practicing a lot. They've been practicing 4 or 5 hours a day, like almost every day. They've been trying so hard. They know this is the event where not only if they take this and they can hide all their stuff until the next event, but also to get their first tournament win on their belt.
And this is a big one to get. Okay, there's a little bit of look from our augmented reality observer, which you can do in-game as well, this incredible AR spectator mode. which works really well. If you've not tried it, it works brilliantly well.
Point C. Point
Here it is now, ladies and
captured.
gentlemen, as we do move into it once again. We started from 0-0. It is still the 4th map, but Noble is actually leading 3-0 at this point in the tournament, so they are one more map away from being able to close this out and be claimed as the first ever Guns of Boom champions. Lazarus once again is the blue team, Noble is the red team. And this will start out with a slight lead for Lazarus, but it looks like that may be changing soon. Our B point in the center is not going to have any aggression coming onto it right now, and Noble will take control of 2 for themselves, but we've got a quick back cap coming in from Lazarus to try and change that up. However, Noble's way ahead of them. We've seen this on the previous capture point maps. They're doing it once again.
This is where they actually have room to roam around. Back capping is so key because of those close choke points, especially if you can defend A and B. You've basically got yourself as the primary controller here to be able to lock it down because it's so awkward. The C point has this very close angles, the confrontation coming through, Killing Machine as well, building himself up to an elimination streak, so a jolt of points is going to be coming. And if Killing Machine's going to step up, this is normally the map where he does it.
Divine King is going to be able to get the combo breaker onto it, though Lazarus will also pick up a few extra points from a Blade Master that we see Spleen finding himself on. It's looking like the majority of Noble will have to dive onto B relatively quickly to save it, and they do just that. Some more great team fighting coming out from Noble here as they look to push themselves ahead once again, and so far have the lead to do that. And are even going for the 3rd point now, which is going to start to look a little bit dangerous. KM holds the midpoint in the meanwhile, but the other 3, they've been able to push onto A, and they're going to take it quite easily. Now just have to go back and re-secure their B point, as they did lose KM in middle.
This is actually pretty scary. I mean, they're in a huge position here. Basically 400 points ahead, Harry. We don't normally see this.
No, never at all. And for the trip cap from earlier, it's just outstanding stuff. And for players like KM, you know, he's one of the main snipers in the team. And an open map like this with only a little bit of cover, it's basically his playground.
He is just going wild now. About to hit the 900 mark. Blue, this is pretty much where it seems like they're going to be able to seal that deal if they can keep this confidence up. They're not far away. The domination is just purely surging through. Bear in mind, this is the last map. It would be fitting as well if they can close it down here.
Lazarus do start to bounce back a little bit, though. Once more, their side point is being backcapped. C goes to neutral once again, and we see Lazarus losing their lead as a result of that. It looks like they're getting it back pretty quickly, and even pushing for a 3rd point, and they might just get it as well. This is a nice bounce back coming in from Lazarus. They're slowly closing that gap, but it is a large one to come back from, unfortunately, with Noble just pushing over 1,000 points. They're only a few more away from taking the map and the entire GOB event.
They just need those eliminations as well, Blue. That's the scary factor. They might not even have to play for the capture points right now. They could just rack up the kills instead, but it won't matter. 11, as they're about to hit the 12 mark. That will be the victory for them. At a 4-0, it would just be ridiculous if they're able to do it, and they don't need much to tee themselves over the edge. Once they get this capture here, that should be Noble. It's so close. It could come down to the kills, but Noble have done it. A 4-0. As the boys in the yellow jersey smash their way through the opponents. Lazarus failed to even secure 1 map. Ridiculous stuff here from your new Gods of Boom.
Congratulations to Noble. You can see as they were leaping around there, Nokia was looking over the shoulders of his teammates towards Lazarus on the other side. Lazarus already on their feet. Lord Mallow high-fiving all of his team. They're going to come out of that feeling, you know, disappointed about it, but hello, Nokia.
There it is again.
Yeah, look at that. And Lazarus are already across the middle of the stage to go and meet Noble. You've got to hand it to him. That is great. Great respect from both teams. Nokia's on his way. I think he's seen that there's a trophy up front in the Spodek Arena, and he nearly went.
He's a little ahead of his teammates there, actually.
He's got changes to make. He's got clothing and wardrobe that needs to be sorted out for him as well.
He's putting a suit on.
What's he got? Oh, what's on his
What's on his
t-shirt?
shirt?
Just like,
He deserves it more than anyone. I said it before, one of the strongest, one of the most passionate players here at the event. And Noble to take it 4-0. Couldn't ask for more from this team.
He had a plan, didn't he? Right, I'm going to go over there. I'm going to talk to them. I've got to deal with wardrobe. You know what they've got to do now? They've got to go and find the Gods of Boom trophy. I like that they're taking their time. I like this. Enjoy your moment in the Spodek Arena. The Gods of Boom champions at the Season 2 kickoff. KM lifts the trophy for Noble. And the t-shirt goes on, the t-shirt comes off. The t-shirt goes on, the t-shirt comes off. He does love it. He loves Noble. He also loves Gods of Boom.
he's in the spotlight. He's in his element, man.
It's getting him now. You can see it starting to sink in now. Huge win. Let's remember where they are. The Spodek Arena at IEM Katowice, one of the most legendary esports venues in the entire world. And to lift that trophy in front of a crowd here is something. To do it against your nemesis, the team that you have had heartbreak to again and again at the biggest events we've ever had prior to now, that's a story you would write. That's the kind of comeback mission you would want to write, and then somebody would go, oh, maybe it's a step too far to make them do it 4-0 in the final, call it 4-1. No, we'll have this final. We'll do 4-0. I am so excited for what we're going to get of them and Lazarus in Season 2.
In such a perfect fashion as well, and not only that, but they really achieved kind of a meta achievement here if we want to talk about esports as a whole. The first team to win a championship on this scale of this size for mobile esports as a whole. This truly is a massive achievement for Noble, the Guns of Boom community as a whole, and it's going to be fun to see if they can keep that up as Season 2 continues to progress onward.
There's a major happening here at IEM Katowice, but I think Nokia is just going to stand around on that stage for the rest of the weekend. I'm not sure we could drag him off of there if we tried. Oh, that's great news for Nokia and great news for Noble and for Lazarus. Like, commiserations. Arguably, that team don't deserve to lose 4-0 in a major event like this, but Noble took it from them. Every time, everywhere. And we thought, well, maybe they could get back in, particularly when we had to restart that fourth map. Yeah, Noble didn't feel like that. That was a big lead that they ran away with as well. You're pointing out, Jackie, we had a huge deficit in points as we were making our way through Europe Square.
It's ridiculous that it even got to that scenario, right? And for Lazarus, I don't really know what that overall effect was. What's gone wrong for them? Because their entire play style has changed. They just do not look like the same team. It really is a complete overhaul, and I'm not sure if you can really account that to one player not being able to be here today, because it just wouldn't be that much of an impact. Spleen played well. He was playing his role, so it cannot just be one man that has caused this. Clearly, when it came down to it, they just wanted it more. I mean, they were playing with their strengths. Nokia was just absolutely using that showmanship the entire time. Maybe the mental game really did start to get to them.
I guess if Romeo's watching from home, and I'm sure he is, and he's going to feel a bit gutty, like, oh, but if I'd been there, maybe I could have done it. But I don't think you can blame anything there. As you said, Spleen stepped up, made himself at home, did a lot of great work for that team. But Noble were putting it together again and again. And we know this is a roster they've changed in order to be more aggressive. Definitely worked for him, Blue.
Especially on that last map as well. We were seeing constant pushes for them to try and force the guys on Lazarus out of their home turf, and just constantly pushing for a 2-cap control, even if it meant completely giving up things like the middle point. We had seen at one point in the match there where they pushed 3 players onto their opponent's home point and only left 1 player, KM, to sit and defend mid. He would eventually lose it, but because of the quick fashion that they were able to move in and frag their way to one of those side points, they quickly got back to mid and maintained that. And that was very much the story. The team cohesion amongst Noble was just so strong in this series that unfortunately Lazarus couldn't compete with it.
Yeah. And we said that if anybody gets a triple cap in either of those maps, then that's unlikely and shows that something's going a little bit wrong. A little bit going wrong for Lazarus, but let's not take anything away from them. Let's not make excuses for them. Bring in a stand-in. Great choice of stand-in. Well done to the Spleen, really stepping up for his team. But Noble, that is all theirs now. The Spodek belongs to them. They are now charging into Season 2 as the first ever Gods of Boom. And when we have the next one of these in a few months' time, they've got their spot. Can Lazarus get there again? I think we'll see Lazarus fight their way back. Any last words from us, guys, before we step aside of Gods of Boom?
All I'm going to say is that Noble played really well. All the practice paid off, all the scrimming, everything they've done has just been fantastic stuff. Lazarus, commiserations to them, of course. They played their heart out, did their best, but sadly, it just wasn't enough.
I'm impressed by the wardrobe change. Didn't see that WWE storyline coming. That was amazing. So
Put his branding back on again for the trophy. Don't know if it comes again.
He knew what he had to do. Yeah.
Blue?
A really good first step here for Guns of Boom Esports to step into such a big arena like this, and it's only going to grow from here. And also a massive foothold claimed by Noble in this matchup. Certainly a force to be reckoned with throughout the entire year here as we continue to push through Season 2 throughout the course of the year. And it's going to be fun to see if they can maintain that strength in future Gods of Boom events along with the Pro Series Championships.
Yeah, whoever makes it to the next Gods of Boom tournament has got a very dominant Noble to look forward to playing, or maybe not look so forward to. Well, you're going to have to scrap against them because they're going to be there. Blue, Jackie, Lethal, my thanks to these guys. I'm Matt Andrews, and we are done here with the very first ever Gods of Boom. Next for Season 2, it's your turn. Get involved with Challenger Series. Go and fight in the online series that happens every Saturday. You might come to our next LAN, a Pro Series event like we did in Katowice and Los Angeles last year. Winner of that, they'll come, Noble will come, and we'll do another Gods of Boom Stadium event later on in the year. That's what Season 2 has for the world's biggest mobile first-person shooter. We'll see you again during the Season 2. Get involved, get on board, come and play with us, and Noble await you. Congratulations to them, to Noble. Gonza, Migs, Nokia, and KM. They are the gods of boom.